Hey guys, Sundown here. This can be my chapter review to Nanatsu no Taizai 265, or the 7 Deadly Sins 265, Rampaging Love. Now, this was an awesome chapter. I really enjoyed this chapter once again. I really feel like Nanatsu no Taizai is on kind of like this fire spree of just delivering these awesome chapters like week after week after week, because of Estarossa mainly. That guy's been going in, he's been crazy, and just seeing his kind of like craziness exponentially increase week after week has been really enjoyable to read, and I think a lot of you would agree with that. So this chapter actually starts off with a flashback that I think has shaken people. I haven't actually seen any reactions or any comments about this flashback, which was actually one of the main parts of the chapter for me, because it turns out that Elizabeth did in fact know Estarossa from pre-Holy War days. We all assumed, in that dream sequence between Estarossa and Elizabeth, and also I think there was another scene after that maybe Estarossa has his memories muddled or something like that with Mael. Maybe Mael knew Elizabeth, or there were a whole bunch of different theories. People just didn't feel like Estarossa really ever knew Elizabeth, and it turns out, yeah, he did. He actually knew Elizabeth when he was younger, and he developed feelings for her when he was younger. So we see that exact same scene again, where she asks what he's doing out there alone in this big ass field next to a city of which we really know nothing about. I'm not sure if it's a city of the goddesses or a city of the demon clan. I assume it's neither. I assume it's just some neutral ground somewhere. And she asks Estarossa if he fought his older brother again, referring to Meliodas definitely. And Estarossa really tells Elizabeth how everyone sees him as kind of like this weakling, this coward, someone who can't even hurt a fly. And even though this hurts him, what really hurts him more than anything is that he feels he's an embarrassment to Meliodas, that Meliodas isn't proud of him as his older brother. So that's what really hurts him most, because Meliodas is who he looks up to the most. So I'm like, okay, like I'm still shook at this point that they actually did know each other, and I'm confused as to why Elizabeth doesn't actually recognize Estarossa in any form or way. I mean, like, I know he's changed since then, but considering Zelrus and Meliodas look exactly like they did 1400 years ago, or however many years ago it was. I'm thinking about the Islamic calendar. However many years ago it was, 3,000 years ago. Then obviously Estarossa's change may have taken her a little back, so maybe she doesn't actually recognize him in terms of who he was back then, because he looked a lot like Meliodas does right now. So we then see a small ass dog whose eyes are drawn in the same style as Hawk's, and Elizabeth says something along the lines of, I saw this dog that was hurt and I just helped him out and now he's stuck with me. So I assume this dog is like the earliest incarnation we've seen of Hawk, or the creature that usually follows either Meliodas or Elizabeth, or both of them. And there has to be some sort of major plot point which comes from this, I assume, because we've had Hawk, we've had the parrot, I've forgotten its name, that was with Liz and Meliodas, and now we've got this dog who looks very, very Hawk-like, in the sense that it's small, it's rotund, and its eyes are drawn in that kind of really cartoony fashion. So what would be the point in a reincarnating animal that really chills with two of the strongest individuals within the manga, like Elizabeth and Meliodas, if it didn't serve a purpose? So I feel like there's still something about Hawk, or the parrot, or the dog, that we've yet to realize or be told by Nakaba. So Elizabeth then consoles Estarossa, saying he's fine the way he is, but he vows to become stronger. He also tells her that he wants to hurry and bring the war to an end between their clans, which is why he wants to become stronger. But I think the reason he primarily wants to become stronger at that point, like pre-Holy War, is because in the back of his mind, he knows that he does actually love Elizabeth, and this is before even Meliodas started developing feelings for Elizabeth, probably before he even knew of her. So this is probably, I think, Estarossa's primary reason for wanting to stop the war back then, besides his gentle heart. So I was shocked by this, but I'll come back to why I was shocked about it in terms of Estarossa later. I mean, in terms of Elizabeth, I still don't understand why she can't remember who Estarossa is. It can't just be an appearance thing, because she knew that he was Meliodas' younger brother, and she knows it now as well. So it's got to be some sort of magical thing preventing Elizabeth from remembering or recalling memories about Estarossa. If it's some amnesia thing, I'll be pissed. I will be pissed because I've had enough of the amnesia shit in this manga. So we then go to what I assume was a goddess city, where the Meliodas of old and Estarossa stand after having slain some big ass goddesses. I mean, like these are some big goddesses. Meliodas commends his brother's efforts, saying that this is what he expects of him as his younger brother. And obviously Estarossa wants to know at this point whether he could get as strong as Meliodas. Something Meliodas guarantees with like this devious little smile. And Meliodas looks badass over here. I mean, he's wearing his old like Ten Commandments high collared kind of shirt, and you can see the difference in their abilities because of how untouched Meliodas is. And you look at Estarossa and he's worn, he's tired, and he's even bleeding from his mouth. But I also want to know there's two things I want to know here. I want to know why the goddesses look like they've had their eyes gouged out. That was one of the first things I noticed. I was like, yo dude, what the hell did they do to these goddesses? But another point here is, does Meliodas guarantee Estarossa's rise in power because he knew he would receive a commandment? Now this is kind of a key point for me, because even though Meliodas was evil back then, if Meliodas knew that Estarossa was going to receive a commandment, that's why he smiled when he's like, I guarantee you're going to get stronger. That makes Meliodas partly responsible for Estarossa's deterioration of mind and the insanity he's developed over these last few chapters and over his life, really, which makes you feel a little bad for Estarossa. You know, the kind of character that he idolized was partly responsible for his mental downfall. So after that, we feel even worse for Estarossa as he walks through a forest after a battle with the goddess clan. And this is him when he's older. He's got his little stubble. He's got his like 6 feet, 7 feet of height. And I'm not sure like how quickly or how much time has passed between the panel previous to this, where he's talking to Meliodas about whether he can get stronger, and the panel where he's just burying all these freaking goddesses, and he's walking through that forest holding his arm. I mean, like, it looks like many years have passed, but it could have just been that he received a commandment and he grew up he just like received a mushroom like Mario or something. So I think it might have been that when he received the commandment, his body transformed as well. So as he walks through this forest after a battle with the goddess clan, he's bloodied, he's bruised. He stumbles upon his idol, his older brother, hugging the one woman who he has feelings for, which is Elizabeth. And you kind of just feel bad for Estarossa there. Like, he loved this woman and now she's with his older brother, and like it's all a bit confusing and convoluted and all that stuff. And the flashback kind of finishes with Estarossa saying that he wanted to be Meliodas, and we come back to the present time where he says that he is Meliodas. So we really start to see the beginnings here of how batshit crazy Estarossa has become. When he sees Elizabeth and he says he's missed her and he's happy that she's come to visit him. And Elizabeth realizes here that she does know Estarossa from somewhere, but she can't recall why or where she's seen him before. And like I said before, if there's not a good reason for her inability to recall memories about Estarossa, I'll be annoyed, because I've had enough of all the amnesia in this manga particularly. I mean, like, people keeping, like, Meliodas and them, like, keeping secrets and really just not telling Elizabeth and stuff like that about his own memories. That's fine, but we've had, like, Diane have amnesia like 50 times. There's no room for more amnesia. So I feel like there needs to be a better reason than just amnesia. Otherwise it will be quite annoying. So Guila motions in front of Elizabeth, barring Estarossa from her princess. And I was just like, bitch, run! What are you doing? I was like, out of everyone you need to protect, Guila, you do not need to protect Elizabeth right now. You need to get your bitch ass out of there. I was like, what are you doing? You're preparing yourself for a one-way ticket to the Deadlands, bro. I was like, oh my god. So yeah, so we then see Estarossa go full kind of schizo, with his eyes phasing out and him remembering that he was actually there to obtain Derrieri's commandment in order to surpass his brother. But as he kind of thinks that, as he kind of idealizes that, he then becomes confused and calls himself Meliodas again, not realizing why he'd need to surpass Meliodas if he's Meliodas himself. And I was like, this guy's gone batshit crazy. He's gone crazy. He doesn't even know who he is anymore. He's lost his sense of self, which I think is actually said at the end of the chapter. So our boy's brain has completely pooped out. He's moving on like some pure schizophrenia kind of animal instinct right now. And Derriere then explains what Monspeed said about Esterossa absorbing more than his own commandment, realizing that his mind and his self are currently being destroyed. Then we have Esterossa kind of walking forward menacingly, switching his attention manically. Really, he's gone completely insane between Derriere and Elizabeth. He's just switching between who he's going to go after, and everyone is shitting bricks at this point. Something which forces Guila to attack out of pure like pressure and fear. And I was just like, what a reaction to have. Like, she's got huge ass cojones, but she's also an idiot. So I was like, I like Guila as much as the next guy, but she was pushing all the wrong buttons this chapter, and really that's what caused her downfall at the end of this chapter. So Diane then acts, forcing a barrier between Esterossa and Elizabeth, whilst King sends Chastity of Fall rocketing into Esterossa's back, causing this dirty explosion. Somehow Derriere gets hit by something. Was it a rock or a piece of debris that was just flying off of Chastity of Fall's last attack? Or was it Esterossa throwing something at Derriere? I don't know. And Esterossa just casually cuts through Diane's diamond barrier, which I actually think is diamond, because usually when she has some sort of element or material like the steel or a diamond or anything like that, it's usually whatever she forms consists of that material, like when she becomes steel. So I think he actually just casually cuts through a diamond barrier like it's butter. And he also cuts halfway through Guila, meaning she's pretty much half dead at this point. So Sariel and Tarmiel come back, cutting Esterossa's torso into like three. They cut him from the shoulder up, and then he's got this midsection, and then he's got his legs and everything below. And at this point, I was like, yes, I knew they couldn't have gone. They couldn't have been finished off so easily. You know, the two archangels, Sariel and Tarmiel, they couldn't have just been finished off like that. And then the next panel shows Sariel and Tarmiel receiving like huge lacerations from Esterossa, whose torso kind of recovers as if nothing happened, and they're basically finished at this point, both Sariel and Tarmiel. So I was like, shit. So Esterossa's attack here, actually, I'd like to talk about, was awesome, because instead of healing his body parts first, he just kind of spun each section of his torso that had been cut apart into like in differing directions, so almost like a tornado. And I assume he like used his blades on his hands and everything like that to slice both Sariel and Tarmiel. And he was basically just like a human blender, and he then slots his body parts back into position. And I thought, yo, this is pretty cool. So and I'd just like to make mention of how crazy strong Esterossa has become. And let me just put my charger back in. Yeah, so Esterossa then actually just walks up to Elizabeth and asks her to come with him to somewhere more quiet, threatening her with the lives of everyone around her. He's just like, if we don't go now, I'm gonna make this place quiet. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So just before Diane and King did something stupid, they tried to like jump up on Esterossa behind its back. Elizabeth kind of commands everyone to stand down, realizing that Esterossa is too powerful at this point in time and would decimate everyone there, even King and Diane, easy at this point. So, retracting his blades of darkness, which I thought were a really cool detail this chapter. You know, he just uses his darkness instead of his actual blade to coat his arms in kind of like this serrated fashion, creating blades of darkness. Esterossa stands down. You can still see Elizabeth's blanket healing taking place on Sariel and Tarmiel, so I assume people like Guila aren't actually dead yet. She might be still getting healed by Elizabeth. And with that, Esterossa says he wants to go somewhere specific with Elizabeth, whisking her off. Right before she leaves, though, Elizabeth telepathically communicates with everyone, saying it's okay and they should look after Derriere. So Esterossa has left behind, that was the end of the chapter, and Esterossa really has left behind Derriere's commandment, showing how crazy he's at this moment. He's completely forgotten about Derriere now, and he's whisked off Elizabeth to God knows where, for what, I don't know, to remind her of his love for her or something. I don't know what he's going to do with it, but he's gone to remind her of something. And Esterossa, like I said, he's left behind Derriere's commandment, something I assume she'll probably give to Zeldris or Meliodas real sharpish, because she needs to get rid of Esterossa in a safe way, and the only ones who can hack him at this moment in time are Zeldris or Meliodas. Also, where exactly will Esterossa take Elizabeth? I feel like it needs to be, I think it needs to be that open field that they both dream of so fervently and so vividly. Maybe Elizabeth will unlock her memories or something over there. And like I said, there needs to be a good explanation for why she can't remember him in the first place. Otherwise, it's just gonna. It needs to be impactful, and if it kind of just lands flat, that would be a bit disappointing. So let me know what you guys thought of the chapter. I thought this chapter was really good. Esterosa is just crazy, and no one can touch him at the moment. So and I think actually I mentioned it last chapter as well. Meliodas will have to take half a day to absorb the commandments. After reading the Crunchyroll Crunchyroll official translation of Nanatsu no Taizai, it did sound like Meliodas would take half a day to absorb the commandments. He's already absorbing the 5 he's absorbing, rather than absorbing those and then having to absorb the others within half a day. So I think it's going to take him like 12 hours to absorb the commandments he's currently absorbing. So yeah, with that, let me know what you guys thought of this chapter. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys in a bit.